Please welcome on stage, moderating this, we have Tawishi Singh, SFA Women in FinTech Subcommittee Member, Ecosystem and Investment Lead of FinTech Nation. Good morning, Tawishi. As well as Caecilia Chu, Co-Founder and Chief Executive Officer of YouTrip. Good morning. We've got Jennifer Ho, Partner at Integra Partners, and also Patricia Tan, Executive Director of Technology and FinTech Practice of Russell Reynolds Associates. Good morning, ladies. I'll hand over the stage to you, Tawishi.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So nice to see you all. First of all, welcome to the first day of Singapore FinTech Fest 2023, our 8th edition. Yay. SFF is known for attracting people from all over the world. So for everyone who's come here locally or globally, thank you for being part of this stage and coming to see our small but sweet panel. Hope there are some good takeaways for you from here. I'm Tawishi. I'll be moderating this session for you. I'm playing two hats here. I'm part of the Women in FinTech subcommittee under SFA, and I'm also the Ecosystem and Investment Lead of FinTech Nation, founded by Varun Mittal. So playing the two hats here today while moderating. Let me quickly give a quick introduction of our wonderful panelists here. So we have Caecilia Chu, who's the co-founder and CEO at YouTrip. And by the way, congratulations on the funding.
Thank you.
We have Jennifer Ho, who's a partner at Integra Partners. And then finally, we have Patricia Tan, who's Executive Director for Technology and FinTech Practice at Russell Reynolds Associates. Before I deep dive into the questions that we have here for our wonderful ladies, let me just give you a background of why we are having this panel. So one of the key things which we wanted to do as part of the Women in FinTech subco was really deep dive into what's the Southeast Asian FinTech landscape. And it was done from three perspectives. What's the landscape in terms of the founder representation? What's the landscape in terms of the women investors representation? And last but not the least, what is the representation at the board level? And that's what we'll deep dive into today as part of this panel. And you will also see a report which will be launched as we go through this panel, and I hope you get to see some good insights from that. So let's start. Caecilia, you have been truly a flag bearer of women founders in this entire ecosystem, and to be honest, if I may, even globally. You've had a great funding round. I would love to hear an untold story of how your journey has been so far and where you really saw diversity and inclusion play a role. So why not tell us with a little bit of experience over there?
Yeah, so my name is Caecilia. I lead a company called YouTrip. It's really an incredible honor to be here today and speaking to a topic that is so close to my heart and really be able to support the reports on the same topic as well. It's very hard to think of an untold story, but I remember when I grew up, I actually grew up in a girls' school, all-girls school for 13 years, 6 years of primary school and 7 years of secondary school, all girls. And in an environment like that, there will be many organizations. There will be president, there will be vice president, there will be CFO, there will be secretary, and of course, all of them will be led by women. And, at the school, we also put school plays on the stage. We'll play Romeo and Juliet, for example. And both Romeo and Juliet will be played by a female students. So the most powerful message as I grew up was, as a young girl, I can actually do anything. I can be the president, and I can even be Romeo, if that's what I want to do. And I think this powerful mantra is especially relevant for the venture business. For a very, very long time, we may be misunderstood by many people. We could be the underdog. We could be the contrarian in a very well-established industries. And I think having that strong sense of self-belief and also a true sense of an internal compass that tells you where to go and who you want to be, I think that's incredibly important.
Wow. Amazing. Would love to be Romeo.
No.
I mean, that's such a great point, right? And she's truly a flag bearer because, in fact, as part of our study, we saw that there are only 5 women founders for fintech companies in Southeast Asia beyond Series B. I mean, such a small number. And to Caecilia's point, we can do anything. So why not increase that number? But if I pivot it a little, as part of our study, we also saw that if you look at the investor landscape, it's only 14%. Only 14% of the deals have a women investor on those. And now we are honored to have Jennifer over here, who's one of the leading, but still a small number of GPs, female GPs in this landscape. So Jennifer, would love to hear your story, what your journey has been, and also what you think about this number. Does that resonate? You know, what thoughts does that spark into you?
Yeah, so just to begin, I also went to a girls' school, and I was in the drama society, and I mostly played male roles. Yeah, so I'm Jen. I work for a VC fund called Integra Partners. We invest in financial services and healthcare inclusion in seed to Series B companies across Southeast Asia. And inclusion is something that is very important to my heart. But I want to rephrase your question a little bit, right? Because I think that the real question that we tend to skip over in these kinds of events is, why is female representation important? And I think it's an uncomfortable question to answer or ask, and it's a very non-PC question to ask, and so we tend to skip over it. But if we don't take it seriously, then people will think that we're just trying to drive change for change's sake. And I don't think that's right. So when I think about why female representation in VC is important, I think about the fact that, you know, as Southeast Asia investors, we know very well that to be truly effective investors in a country like Vietnam or Indonesia or the Philippines, we need to include local perspectives, right? That's why we have local venture partners or try to hire local team members to add to our investment team. And then if we think about the fact that the companies that we invest in, whether they are B2C companies serving consumers that are 50% women, or B2B companies that serve large enterprises whose customers are ultimately 50% women, I think it adds to the outcome or leads to a better outcome if you have a diversity of gender perspectives on the investment team. So that's why I think it's important. But, you know, I also realize that in venture capital, and, you know, the crop of VC funds that are very, very successful today, right? Starting in 2014, 13, 15, they were all founded by men. So it's not surprising that there is a lack of senior female representation in the VC landscape, because that's not how the industry got its start. And I think it just takes time for it to change.
Yep, understand. It's such an important point as well to consider asking the difficult questions as well in future. No, amazing. I think it's been a wonderful journey, and it's good that while today the number may stand at 14%, hopefully with the insights that may come from this report and having these kind of difficult conversations will lead to an increase. Patricia, I would like to get your insights now. You're from your vantage point, you're on the other side of the table. From Russell Reynolds, you're literally the C-suite firm who looks at obviously diversity as one of the angles, but essentially with the aim of putting the right people at the right point, right? So have you seen a change of all these big firms looking at diversity as a mandate? Has there been a shift in mindset? So tell us a little bit about that part.
Sure. Thank you, everyone, for being here. My name is Patricia. I'm from Russell Reynolds. When Tawishi and Varun reached out to me about this is a very close topic. It's a topic very close to my heart. Even though I didn't attend all girls school, I was raised by an amazing figure, my mother, who plays both roles of father and mother. And I always just look at her. There's no distinction. I think women can do it all. It wasn't easy, because back then we're talking about 40 years ago, where she has to work doubly hard to break the barriers, and she did it. And she's always my role model to where I am today. But back to that, and therefore it kind of like always very strong advocacy in female representation. Myself, especially in technology, we're looking at underrepresentation of women in tech. At the same time, I run fertility support at workplaces. Again, because I felt that there's just a lot of increasing challenges in fertility and all that. So that's just my very side, project. But on that note, so what I'm seeing is that the bigger firm, the larger firms, definitely a lot more robust, a lot more sophisticated. But I'm also increasingly seeing a huge emphasis on diversity. I mean, compared to a few years ago, you hear that, but you don't see actions being taken. But over the years of the last easily 12 months, I'm seeing acceleration of activities and all. However, I do want to make a note. Diversity is not just gender only, even though the report that we launched only looking at just one facet, but it's multifaceted. We're talking about diversity from ethnicity, which is, again, more traditional categories in the past, but now we're actually talking about way of thinking, way of solving problems, different socioeconomic background, age as well. I think Mr. Taman earlier saying we got to try some diversity earlier, and I was like, that's right. And again, it's all sort of diversity, right? And diversity, again, it's also not just can work on itself as a silo. Diversity, equity, inclusion, got to come all together. So the bigger firms, of course, practice a lot more proactive into that. Whereas I see that the startups and all on the other end, even though they may not necessarily have written policy like the big firms, but they're more agile. Precisely because of that, when it comes to inclusion, more inclusive workplace, they have implemented a lot more, even though it's not unwritten, and that's something that we are seeing on a vantage point.
Very interesting. I do have a follow-up on that, but let me get back to that in a bit. Caecilia, again, you're truly a role model in your space, and we have, as part of the talent stage, a lot of aspiring young people who want to launch their startup, and even more so, from a diversity angle, of course, women as well. So just any recommendations for these young potential startup founders out there on what they should look out for, what they shouldn't be doing? Any good lessons learned, mistakes that you would want to share?
So I think, there's no better time to be in technology. And as I always also share with my team that I think technology is a really great gender equalizer. If you really think about what we do as a company, we make a promise to the customers and we develop the technology to really deliver on that promise. And whether or not where you're from, your gender, it really plays no part to the outcome. And so it's really a great equalizer, and I think it's really a great field for both women and men to succeed. So I think if I were to give one recommendation as a parting thought, I would say be the change that you want to see. And I really resonate with what Jen has shared earlier. We are not changing just for the sake of it. I think there's many very, very strong and good, strong evidence and also good reasons for us to really champion this gender diversity, more inclusive workplace. And I would say if you're a women professional in the audience, I would say consider stepping up to take a broader and deeper role in your organization. And if you're currently in a leadership position, consider being a role model for others. I think seeing is believing. It will be really helpful for many younger girls and women to pursue this industry, a successful career in this industry. And most importantly, all the men in the audience, I would say a big thank you. I think there's no women leader without the strong support of men. And, I would continue to encourage you to elevate more women all around you. And I think, when we join hands and do all this together, I believe we will actually get there sooner than we think.
Wow. If I may, I think, I completely resonate with what Caecilia and everyone else is saying. I think early on in my career, I was very lucky to have a young colleague, but maybe just 2 years more experienced than me, who gave me 2 suggestions. One, always ask. It's okay to ask. And, you may get a no, but it's okay. And the second bit is go talk to your leader, go talk to your team leader, and ask him to be your mentor. And in my case, it was a man. The good thing that came out of that was that I asked. And my mentor was very happy that someone has the courage to ask, and also at the same time also was aligned on our focus and mandate to diversify the team as much. So we actually had very amazing tech fairs where we would actually want to try hire as many women as possible and across the layers. And then increasingly in my 8 years of experience in that firm, I actually saw the diversity ratio increase and get better. So I'm sorry to say, but from 20%, I think I saw it almost to 45 over years. So it was a very dire number to start with. But then, with our joint experiences and our joint efforts, I think you really can make a change. So completely agree that it's both men and women who have to collaborate together to make this happen. So Jennifer, I think as part of our conversations, you said a very interesting thing. You talked about nurturing the pipeline. That really resonated with all of us, but at the same time, that can mean a lot of things. So we would love to hear your experience on what that really means and how you believe that can create a great outcome. So why don't you share that insight with us?
Yeah, and I think Caecilia touched on this as well, right? And you made a really good point that it's about finding the junior women out there who have the ambition to grow and kind of become more successful in their career. I think I would start by saying, when it comes to nurturing the pipeline, kind of just thinking about it from my personal perspective, I did not join Integra Partners as a partner. I joined Integra Partners as a principal, and my colleagues, Janesh and Chris, really took a flyer on me. I knew a little bit about investing. I knew almost nothing about venture. I knew absolutely nothing about what it meant to be a GP or to run a VC fund. And they invested a huge amount of time and effort in training me, right? And I would not be here today without them. But the way that I also think is important to think about nurturing the pipeline is to do it right. And I hate thinking about, wanting to set a quota in the team, for example, of the number of females that we have on the team, or making sure that we have a certain number of female founders that we invest in, because then I think it really undermines the kinds of achievements that these women go on to achieve or get to. And the way that we think about it, at least from the perspective of interviewing younger professionals or in terms of giving chances to founders that we may want to invest in, is to ensure that if we encounter a female founder or encounter an applicant who is a woman who may come from a slightly unconventional background, is to at least give them a chance to meet us, right, and have a conversation. And it may not ultimately mean that we end up hiring them or investing in them, but they've had a chance to have a conversation, and hopefully at least they take something from it. I think that when VC firms think about wanting to increase female representation, the easiest thing to do is import that talent, right? Go hire a senior woman and make her a partner. But it doesn't really address the root costs of representation. And what is really important then, if we want to think about having more women on your investment committee in the future, or on boards, or female founders, the most important thing you can do is just to ensure that the junior women on your team have a clear path forward and put the effort into helping them get there. And I think that's what we try to do at Integra.
Amazing. I think we're seeing a lot of good examples here where a lot of firms, whether it's startups or mature firms or even VC firms, who have some kind of mandate increasingly. They have KPIs now where they want to, not again necessarily to Jennifer's point, have an equal representation. That's not because you don't want to not have meritocracy, but at the same time have enough initiatives in-house to make sure that you encourage diversity. Patricia, on that point, and then Jennifer also touched upon it, this has to start across levels, right? It's not just at leadership. So as part of our report, we did see that the management team is seeing a decent ratio. I think it's around 13% when it comes to women representation. But so is at the board level. Although we do see that for the public companies and for fintechs beyond Series D, the number seems to be increasing. So what do you think about that number? Is that a little bit of a tokenization there, or are they just getting mature? What's your viewpoint on that?
Well, it's an initial finding that we are seeing that. I can't say for sure. There's no assumption. I can only guess that as companies go larger and towards potentially an IPO, that again, the mandate become a lot more stronger. And that's where the deliberate and concerted efforts will be around pushing more for female board members. However, I do want to make a point that on my side of view as well, I've been in touch with a lot of women on boards and etc. And the last thing we want is to be patronized by, again, back to your point, tokenism. Like, I always remember there's this very, very seasoned woman in board. I asked her, how was your journey like? She said, when I was the first woman on board, I felt like it was just a check on the list. I was there, but guess what? My voice wasn't heard. And that to me, is a lot more damaging. So a lot of companies do that just for the compliance. Like back to your point, the number is just a number. It shouldn't be. I think we got to make sure to make the best of the voice for a business impact and strategy, because there's a lot more perspective. And that's where I think the inclusion comes in, making sure they are heard and all. So yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah. So just a quick follow-up on that. There are amazing ladies out there, and there are fintech founders out there. Maybe they are looking for their first board seat. What's your suggestion for them?
No, it's good. I've always been asked, like, what should we do to get a first board seat, whether it's fintech or tech in general. I think the first thing is be very clear, like a few things, right? I mean, of course, the hygiene will be prepare your CV, board ready CV, the very hygiene one, and get ready and by speaking to people. But I think the deeper level of getting yourself ready is that have a good kind of evaluation check on yourself as a person. What is the USP that you're going to be bringing on the table? Is it ways of thinking, the different experience? What is it? And create the personal branding around that. I think these days is, again, we shouldn't be just saying because I'm a female, it should be easy for me to get a board seat. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't compromise meritocracy as well. It should really about what is your USP? What's the value? What's the technical skills? What's the perspectives you're going to bring on? And that's a start. Once you have that, the second part is network. Network. I think I cannot emphasize we did a studies with 25 women on board. What is the experience? And they said, look, the truth is there's still a lot of inner circle and clubs, right? That's the truth. But in order to break that barriers, you got to be out there, make it known. Are you putting on LinkedIn? Are you talking to people? Are you networking the right group of people to then share about your intent to be assuming a first board role? If yes, what can you bring onto the table? And that to me is it's key. And don't expect to be sitting there and just wait for people to call you, because I guess it's not going to happen that way. Yeah.
I mean, considering we're at Singapore FinTech Fest, which is the epitome of networking, I hope people take away something from this and, really use this platform. Jennifer, just another follow-up question. What about women who want to get into the investment landscape? It's not that easy, and a lot of people probably feel a little daunted that, okay, what really is investment life cycle, and how do maybe I don't have the right expertise. And I think it's fair to say that, unfortunately, women tend to have a little bit of more imposter syndrome. So any recommendations for potential women investors out there who want to get into this space?
This was an unexpected question that I was not prepared for. Okay. I think that being an investor actually encompasses a lot of different roles. It means sometimes being a therapist to founders. Sometimes it means delivering hard decisions or messages that you may find difficult to deliver to somebody whom you do like and respect. It means making very quick snap judgments, right? Especially in VC where you are working on very little information. It means understanding the market, but also understanding how this particular startup may fit into that market landscape. And, I think a lot of women undervalue the perspectives that they bring to that role as an investor, because they think of an investor as like this finance role, right? This like, oh, I'm an investor. It's this high finance thing, and it's not. It's about common sense. It's about asking the right questions and being curious. And actually, as a young professional, sometimes you get to ask questions that I, who have spent 6-7 years in VC and maybe 12 in total as an investor, may not think to ask because I have lost that perspective. And so I think don't undervalue yourself. That's number one. Number two, reach out for mentorship and support. I'm always available on LinkedIn, and I try to make time for young women who reach out to me who are curious, because I benefited a lot from the mentorship that I got when I was starting out in my career. So,
Sorry for putting you on the spot there, but amazing answer. Caecilia, one last question for you. And, again, as someone who's now the founder and CEO of a very mature company in this space, any initiatives that you have over time maybe implemented to, again, not necessarily with the focus on just diversity, but just to encourage women in your team or hire more? So any examples of any initiatives that you either have already done or would like to do, which is on your roadmap?
So I think the inclusion, the diversity has always been in our DNA. Of course, starting from founding team, we have 50-50 gender diversity, and actually that perpetuates in our overall organization. Today, we are 50-50 gender diversity in terms
Amazing.
of our overall workforce, and we are close to 200 people now, and we're in the tech space. And we don't just look at diversity. We never actually look at quota. We really believe it brings a lot of value. Half of our consumer users will be women. Understanding the perspective is incredibly important, and also putting that voice around the table when we develop product, when we develop technology, when we develop even a marketing campaign. I would say it's our secret sauce. I think in many ways that really help propel our business. But having said all that, I think being a female founder, if anyone is interested, I think it's the best place to be, because we don't need to wait for anyone to give us opportunity. We could just start. And I think the most important step in being an entrepreneur is to get started. So, I wish you all the very best of luck. I think when there is cyclicality in the macroeconomy, a lot of times it's the best time to start a company. So I wish you all great success and a great 2024 next year.
Thank you. I think I would like to just end the panel here with last thoughts. First of all, it was an interesting dialogue, but it's only just getting started, to Caecilia's point. We hope that some of the insights from both our panel today as well as the report, which, by the way, you can download from the QR code there, I hope that sparks the conversation. There are some good takeaways here that we all can probably learn and inculcate amongst us, amongst our collaborators at our various firms. And I really hope that the numbers the next time look much better across the three perspectives, which is board, investor, and founders. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank everyone involved here, the other remarkable ladies that we interviewed as part of this report, the Elevandi team, SFF team, and of course Russell Reynolds and the entire team who really authored the entire report and really did the hard work in making sure we get the right aspects. And thank you all, you remarkable ladies, to really share your thoughts today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
for
guys.
coming.